Hey everyone, it's me, it's Undead Viking, coming to you from my gaming dojo located in Moorhead, Minnesota, and I am going to be doing another video review of a board game today. The game in question is Theseus, the Dark Orbit, and as you can probably guess from what you're seeing on here, it is a space-themed science fiction game that is obviously to some degree steeped in very much the some classic sci-fi movies. It has space marines in it. It has aliens in it, and you can see from here, like, you see these guys with the the flamethrower, and you see these eggs down here. So we all know what it's probably inspired by to some extent. And in a way, I think it's actually kind of inspired a little bit by the movie Prometheus that came out last year. A game that apparently I enjoyed and very few other people did. But this is not time to do a movie review. This is time for me to tell you what I think of this game. Thematically, the game is about this giant space station that is theoretically empty. But you and another player, because this game is mostly a two-player game, there's four-player variants, I'll talk about those in just a second. But mostly two-player, you and another player representing a faction. There are 5 different factions that are included with this game. The Pandora, which are this kind of weird, almost mystical kind of faction. The Space Marines, the Aliens, the Greys, which not like the Confederate Army, the aliens that with the big giant eyes and the big bulbous head, and scientists are the other factions. And these factions are trying to basically take control of this space station for whatever purpose that would suit their needs. And you have to pretty much, like, you're warring with that other faction. And the game kind of continues. There's some hand management and other things. I'll explain that obviously more when I do the gameplay. But what it is that you'll be each faction, you get these units that like and each one has 3 units, and then you'll be taking these units and you'll be moving them around this board in a clockwise fashion. And you'll be playing cards and acting out cards and trying to, depending on the faction, trying to score points. It's got a really cool thing going on because I like games like this because each different faction has its own little deck of cards that it uses, in which the cards that you use each game will be different. Well, because you use a certain 15 cards that are drawn randomly, and there's lots of cards. So, but you'll be using these cards to the best of your ability to try to, depending on the faction, do whatever do whatever you need to do to win. Like, if you're the Space Marines, you win by shooting the other people, and the aliens win by damaging other people. But like, the scientists, they can attack people, but they also get points for, like, researching the station and trying to gather information about the station. And so I dig games that have that everybody doesn't just start off with exactly the same. Each person's got its own little thing, that little niche that they have. So I'm going to show you, as I always do, how to play the game. And I'm just going to show you a 2-player game. I mentioned the 4-player variants. There's 2 4-player variants. One is a team play where 2 people will work together on each team, and they'll basically, with a few changes as far as starting setups and stuff like that, be pretty much the same as a 2-player game. And a deathmatch version of the game. And really briefly, with the deathmatch version of the game, you're trying to, as you do damage, or as you satisfy, either, like, if you're one of the races that, like, is just all about fighting, as you do damage to other people, you actually gain points, and the first person to 20 is the winner. If you're like the Greys or the scientists, who can also get points via gathering data, you can gain points either by doing the data or by attacking. So actually the deathmatch is pretty fun, and it does. I've only played it once, but it was very interesting. It was after I played the other game the other way several times, but the game is interesting because you have you have a life points of like 20. And as you take damage, you lose that point. So it's like you start with 20 points, and as you get hurt, your score gets less and less and less. And if you ever get reduced to 0, you lose. But in a 2-player game, obviously, then that just happens. The interesting thing is that the 2 races that actually have the other extra scoring track, they actually have the data. They will combine their scores at the end of the game. So if you play the Marines and you're playing the scientists, and the Marines end up with 14 hit points, your score is 14. But if the scientists have 6 hit points left, but they have 10 data they collected, you add the 10 and the 6, 16, and so you'd actually win the game. So there you go. That's how that works. And like I said, and I'll talk about this more in the conclusion, but I really like how the different factions will kind of work differently and work. But no faction, in my opinion. I mean, there's factions that I enjoy playing more, like the aliens, but but each one, in my opinion, is very well balanced as far as that's concerned. But I'm already talking about my conclusion here. So let me show you how to play. It's not a difficult game to figure out and play. I mean, I'm not going to go super in depth and just show you each and every card and what everything happens. I'm just going to kind of show you the basics of the game, and then I'll come back and I'll tell you exactly what I think of the game, and then you can figure out if this is something you want to purchase. I think this game is either coming out like in a few days or it is already out right now. So. There you go. It's from Portal Publishing, if I didn't mention that. I think I did, but maybe I didn't. So there you go. Okay, how to play Theseus, the Dark Orbit. Theseus. This is a 2-player game of Theseus, the Dark Orbit setup. With the Space Marines and the aliens ready to do battle for dominance of this space station. Before I actually go into the process of a turn or two of the game, I want to just kind of show you the different aspects of the game. This is the point board. Each person starts with like 20 life points or hit points, basically, and as they take damage, you reduce that on the board. If you ever get down to 0 over here, you automatically lose because, well, you've been killed. If this is the data side of the game board, I'm not playing with either the Greys or the Scientists to actually get data points, but they have markers that would just go up and climb that ladder, and when the game comes to an end, that you will total up both your life points and your data points for your final score in the case of the Greys and the Scientists, whereas obviously the Marines and the aliens are just going to use that board. It should be noted that if you ever actually get up to 20 in data, you'd automatically win. I've never seen that happen, but then again, I've never seen anybody actually reach 0 on the hit point track either. There are, as you can see, the 5 different boards, and these are the different boards that you'll be landing on and playing on. There's the 2 faction boards, right here and here, and then there are the 3 locations. There are the corridors over here, the control room, and the tech lab, and each one of those has a special ability, if you will. The corridors, once the action that happens in the corridors is that it triggers combats everywhere on the board where there are factions, both factions present. In the control room, you get when you're there, you get the malfunction button, and what you can do is you can take that and you can play it on a card that somebody has put and that's affecting a room, and that causes that particular spot, that malfunction no longer, that card does not work, it's malfunctioning. And in the tech lab, you'll notice a couple arrows over here. If you land on the tech lab, it immediately gives you another turn, and so you can move another one of your units. Normally you only get to move one, then the other person moves one, and you go back and forth like that. I've gone through the setup already. Each player has a deck of cards that you pick 15 cards out of the deck. It says to pick randomly. We've tried playing like going through and picking cards that you want or whatever. It seems to work with. But you shuffle up those cards. You take 3, and then you put the rest next to it for your draw deck. You automatically they've put face up so you can actually see the card that's there. And but you don't know what's underneath it, obviously. You then, of the 3 cards you have, you take one and you place it in a spot that is open on the board. So you can see the human player or the marine player put the battle position card in the corridors, and the alien player put the hidden card in their own base there. And then the remaining 2 cards you place in the pending location of your faction board. Cards that are in pending locations are able to be activated and installed once you land on that location. Not be there, but actually move and actually land on that. And so that allows you to install more of your cards out on the board. It should be noted that when you install the cards, you don't have to install on the board that they're pending. You can install, they can install the tentacles over there if they wanted. It's just they just have to land on the spot where the cards are pending. So each person, the first person to go is the first person that is to the left of the quarter. So here it is, so the human player will be first. And when you move, you get to move as many spaces as there are units on a location, either faction. So in this case, these can move. If I moved either of these guys, they can move 2. This guy can move 1. If that unit was over there, they can move 3 because there was 3 in there. So, and then you always move clockwise around the board. As I said, the first thing you do is you move, and so you pick the person. So we're just going to pick this dude, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to move him right there. Let's go right there. And I should mention that there's these 4 locations. Let me just show you a close up of this really quick. You can see there's 4 locations, and you can see these are actually walls, and those are important because you'll notice that when you're doing attacks, you can't attack through a wall. So you can see this spot has access to that one, and that one. Whereas this one only has access to this one. So you can see, and this one only has access to that one. So tactically, it does actually, you get to place them in any open spot that's there. But tactically, it is important to make a good choice, if you will, because if you're a unit that can actually attack, you may want them to have access to everything. But if you're a unit that isn't able to, the Marines start off with the ability to attack. You can see there's that little symbol, that little lightning bolt there, and that means they can attack one other unit that they can see. And if they ever get upgraded, you notice that they have 3 lightning bolts. It means they'd be able to attack 3, meaning that if they're in that location and there was 3 other enemy units in that spot, they could hit all 3 of them. So, but if you are a faction that doesn't have the ability to attack, you'll notice that at the very beginning, aliens don't have an attack, but when you upgrade them, they get to an attack of 3. So maybe at the very beginning, you want your alien to kind of hide or try to avoid situations where the other person will be able to get hurt, because every time you get hurt you lose points, and obviously as you lose points, that means that you're going to be doing worse and worse, and you aren't going to be able to win the game, obviously, if you have less points. But anyway, so we choose to move our Marine there, and he is in that location. And once we have moved, the next thing we do is that we have an action cards phase. And that means that if there was a card that belonged to him in his faction installed here that allowed him to take an action, he could then take that action. And if there are more than one in that spot, he can take more than one action. He can do them in any way he wants, any order that you wish. But as you can see, there are no cards there that he's installed, so he's unable to do the action phase. Then you move on to the sector action phase. Now, the sector action phase is when you are able to then actually enact the spot, what the spot tells you to do. As I said, like the malfunction button, or the onslaught attack, or the take another move action, things like that. But you can't ever take the action for the other faction board. Normally, like if you land on your own faction, you can either take an upgrade token, which allows you to upgrade your units or upgrade like an installed card that you have out there, or you can use that to clean up your faction board. So if somebody's installed something on your board, you can get rid of that, or maybe you have something installed of your own on your faction board that you don't want anymore. You can take the action of removing that out of play, so you can maybe make room for something else. But so there isn't really anything he can do as far as the faction board, because he can't take that action. So now you move on to the pending cards phase. And the pending cards phase is very important, because this is the way you're able to get more cards out of your deck put onto the board. Now, with the pending card phase, there's 3 things you can do. If there's a pending card of your faction, you can then take that card, you can install it in any open spot that's on the board. Or you notice that there's these other cards here. These are upgrade cards, and these are, well, not upgrade cards, I apologize. These are like bonus cards that some of them have upgrade on them. They are placed there randomly at the beginning of the game, and everybody can see what they do. If you install one on that location, you immediately get to take that card and put it in front of you. You can use it right away, or you can hold on to it and use it later on. But I mean, it's something that allows you to just have an extra power later. But anyway, so you can install one. Now, if you don't have one, if there's an empty spot, say like this spot was empty, you have the option of putting one of your cards in that location, and you can do that. Finally, what you can do is, if you want to install and there's another card there, you can actually just discard that. And so, like, you don't want them to have this Tentacles card, you can just get rid of it, tell them to put it in your discard pile, and you take the top card off your deck, and you go ahead and you place it in that location. So now, theoretically, if we can get somebody to land there, and if you notice, these guys can move too, 1, 2, you'd be able to activate that armory. So, and then that's the end of your turn. Once you're done with the pending phase, you're done, and you tell the other player it's their turn and they can go. So, the next player then is this the alien player, and they have kind of an interesting situation here with the fact that they actually have the ability to maybe do some damage, because the fact that, remember I told you, the corridor triggers attacks wherever there are, like, both factions situated in the situation. And it's important to note that not everybody gets to attack. Only the person that triggers the attack, the onslaught as it's called, gets to actually do the attack. So we're going to do that, actually. So the alien player is going to go, and they're going to move over here. And so, as I said, the first thing that they do is they do the movement, which are done in the action cards phase. There aren't any action cards there that they're doing. And then the sector action phase, which is actually then the onslaught or the attack. And so we look over here and we see that there's the Marine player and the alien player are there. And so we can go ahead and do the attack. But if you notice, he doesn't have an attack symbol on there. However, because that they had the presence of mind, you have this. It says hidden. 1 wound for each enemy unit in here during your onslaught. So we're automatically going to be able to do a wound. Now, if there were 2 Marines in there, we do 2 wounds. But in this situation, we're going to do a wound. We're going to knock the Marine player down 1, and then we're going to move on to the pending phase. And now, what we can do is we can take this card. And I apologize because of the fact that it's kind of a bigger board, you can't be able to see it, but I'm going to place that in the pending area down here. And so now, and this one actually only has 1 pending spot, actually. So we're going to go ahead and we'll put that back on there, and there. And so now there's that pending card there waiting to be activated and installed on the next turn. So the next thing that's going to happen, and this is going to be very interesting actually, is that the human player is going to go, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to move 2 because you can move 2. And we're going to go in here. Now, you'll notice that we've filled up that location. What happens when you fill up a location is what's called a lesser onslaught occurs. And that means that the combat does not occur in every single location, but only the one where there's 4 there. In this situation, everybody's going to fight everybody. So we're going to have the Marines, remember, they can attack once. So it makes sense. This Marine can see this one, we're going to attack. This Marine can see either of those 2, they can attack. I'm able to do 2 damage, so I can go with you to the aliens with my Space Marines. But my opponent, remember, that's a hidden card, they have the ability to do 1 damage for each unit that's there. They can knock me down too. It's, so it's, maybe not the wisest decision I could have made, but I'm just doing that to like show that lesser onslaught ability that's in that spot, in that location. And so after that is done, we do the action phase, but I don't have any action cards I can do. Sector action phase, I can't do anything like that because of the fact that this is my sector. And now we can do pending cards. So now I'm going to take the armory, and the armory is actually pretty good. It's like, you can see it, you receive 1 upgrade token. So it's actually pretty neat that you can get an extra upgrade token. And I'm going to go ahead and install that right there. So we've gone ahead and placed that, and because we've taken that card out of that location, we're going to go ahead and then immediately place my top card, which is the barricade, and we're going to put that there. So you're constantly placing those cards. Now I should mention that I could do nothing if I didn't want to install that. I can choose not to, and then and we wouldn't move on. But I can't just install it and not put another card down there. I have to put another card in that location, even if it would be disadvantageous to me. Meaning, like if there was an alien player there and they can move there and they'd be able to get rid of it, I still have to do it. I can't not fill the pending area. So we've done the pending card phase, and we've installed our extra thing, and so now the other player can go. And so you kind of get the feeling of how that works. So I'm just going to show you a couple other things just so you can see how those work. If you ever come into a spot where everything's full, you can kick one of the other players out, or you can even kick yourself out if you want, and you send them to space, which sounds a lot worse than it actually is. You don't die in space or anything like that. You just are out there. And on that person's turn, if they have a spaced unit, if they want to move that, they can just take that and place it in any location they want. Like so. The only thing is that's it. They can only do 1 move. They get to move 1, and then that's the entire turn. They don't really get to do anything else. They just go ahead and move on to that location. Besides that, another big part of the game is the traps that you're able to lay. Like take for example, this landmine trap. You can if enemy receives, so if they land in that location, they receive 2 wounds. Traps end up actually being probably one of the more important things in the game, because of the fact that you're able to kind of close off spots on the board, or make spots on the board treacherous for other players to go in. So they'll have to come up with inventive ways to get around that, so they don't want to land on those locations. Some traps, these tentacles, you actually put a physical thing on the board, like so. The reason for this is because this one uses up an extra move point in that location. So you would place it like so, and so it reminds the players that even if they're going through the location, the actual trap does take place. So that extra movement point to actually get through the spot is there, and so not only if you're landing on the spot, but if you're trying to get through it as well. Other than that, the game continues on like this. People placing cards, installing cards, doing damage, doing attacks, those sorts of things. Very tactical game, very strategic. But as soon as you run out of cards to draw, and you go through the pending phase, and you're unable to replace the card once you're pending, or you're unable to process that, you have to move this trigger down to like the 3, and the next time that happens it goes down to 2, next time it happens 1 0 until it gets to 0. As soon as you get to that point of like, and this is for any faction, neither faction are unable to play a card, once you get to that point, you then stop the game, and whoever has the most points at that point of the game wins. And, it's very, like I said, like what I found is that's a really interesting aspect of the game, because you'll start, if you are behind, like, or technically the person's ahead of you, I guess, because like, they have more, if you're at 12 and they're at 16 or whatever, and you can see that end game is going to be triggered possibly sometime soon. It adds a really neat part to the game where you are trying to figure out how you can move that isn't going to trigger the end game. And so it's a really nice aspect. I like the fact that this game doesn't have just a set turn limit. The game actually ends by the player's decisions and the player's actions. And alternatively, if you are ahead and you want to just win the game, you're going to try to find ways for you to kind of keep propelling this particular marker down, so you can finish the game off while you're in the lead, and then you can win the game. But I hope that kind of shows you how the game goes. There's a lot more to it, because there's lots of cards and there's lots of things going on, and there's more cards actually. That I didn't show you. Because you only take 15 of the cards, and so there's more cards that actually weren't in play for this demonstration, and so there's a lot of different aspects, and I kind of like that too. How like it isn't just the same 15 cards every single time. It's going to be randomized, and you're not going to know how many of each card you're going to have and things like that. And so you are going to want to be able to kind of adapt to, and plus you don't actually get to see it. It isn't like you look at your deck, you see what you have, and then you're going to be able to play with it. You're going to have to it's a little bit of a mystery, a little bit of a surprise, and you're going to have to kind of roll with the punches and adapt the way you're going to play with what you got. But there you go. That's how you play Theseus: The Dark Orbit. Let me tell you exactly what I think of the game. Okay, so Theseus: The Dark Orbit. That's kind of the basics of how you play. I just, like I said, I didn't want to show you like the 4-player versions of the game. I invite you to go check out the rules on the Portal website and just reading about those if you're interested. I just, because of time, I didn't want to go through each and every aspect of it. But I'm really hoping you have a pretty good idea of how the 2-player game works. So, what did I think of the game? First of all, the game took you by surprise. I used to pride myself a great deal on doing research on games and like saying, oh, what is this one about? And like I read the rules beforehand. And frankly, I just don't have the time for that anymore. My buddy Joel, Eddie, a drive-through review guy, he, name drop, I ask him all the time. He's like, oh, I read the rules to this game, and I read the rules to that game. I'm like, dude, where do you find the time for this? And, he points out that, like, he doesn't have small kids. He has, like, I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son, and that's like free time. They eat it up. So I don't have time to sit in front of my computer and read rules. But, so I thought, and just the whole judge a book by its cover thing, when I saw the, oh jeez, I can't even show you, hold on. When I saw the box cover, I was like, whoa, this, like, it's full of action and suspense and probably a bunch of dice and I'm going to be fighting aliens and what have you. But no, it isn't that. It is, but it isn't. It's more of a careful weird like thought process, if you will. I mean, it's about getting. I mean, in a weird way, and bear with me, I kind of felt I was playing kind of like circular checkers, if you will. Because of the fact that like you're just moving your units around the board, and that's the way you're able to like activate the different cards and like getting your other cards out and so forth. And I really liked that. I mean, I often say that it's tough to find an innovative game anymore. Like a game that really takes me by surprise as far as the way it's played or the rules or anything like that. And ultimately this game, I mean, it wasn't like like, oh my gosh, I've never seen this before. I mean, I could think of other games that kind of were like this, but I really liked how you went with both the movement of the units and then their movement level was dependent upon like how well the how many units are already in that spot, and I like that, and like how you kind of had to think a few moves ahead, like I'm gonna move this one to here, and then I can move that one to there, and I gotta get this card, and I gotta get that card down over there, and I'm like, oh well, that card's over there, and I need to figure out a way on how to get over there so I can use that card because it's important, and I really liked how it spatially, I guess, how it worked. I mean, it did confuse me. I'll be completely honest with you. It did confuse me a little bit at first. I mean, because of the fact that like it didn't spell out the connections. I mean, it's because you've got these these boards, and they're on the table. And the fact that they are, not connected in any way, so it's kind of like, oh yes, this is a space station, and you're moving around the space station, but it's very abstract in a way. I mean, it isn't very like gridded out, and so it took me a while for me to kind of wrap my head around that, and ultimately it is you could very easily have made this with a different theme. I mean, obviously you'd have to shoehorn some of the different faction abilities into making whatever it is you want, but I mean, it didn't have to be a space station. It could have been, pirate ships or whatever, and you could have figured out a way to do it. But I mean, I don't think they did that. I don't think the designer had this idea of like, oh, I have this idea for this cool game, and I finally got to get a theme to work with. No, I'm pretty sure that he had this idea. I mean, obviously I can't speak for him, but I mean, I'm pretty sure he had this idea of these different factions, and then he came up with the process of how they would be trying to take over the space station. But the thing about it is that I've kind of had a renaissance lately for two-player games. I don't know what the deal is. I think it's because I've been playing a lot of role-playing games lately, and so my main gaming partner is either my daughter or my wife, and I haven't been able to have that steady 4 or 5 people like always at my beck and call to play board games, just because that same 4 or 5 people, we've been kind of consumed by these role playing sessions that we've been having, and that sounds really dirty. Sorry. Anyway, so so I haven't been able to play like multiplayer games, and so I really enjoyed this game for several reasons. It seems like I said, the factions are very, very equal. I mean, I never had. I mean, sometimes like certain cards that like luck of the draw when you draw your cards out of your deck. Sometimes I found that like maybe you got a better hand or whatever, but that's just, you can't really do much with that. I mean, as far as if all things being equal, I think the factions are very they match up very well, regardless of which one you choose. And I like the game because it rewards continued play. I mean, like the first time you play this one, it's definitely like any kind of game that has cards, and the cards have powers. Because you're the first time you play, you're like, oh, what does that do? And oh, what does that do? And you're like, and you're taking these cards, and then after the game is done, that's when you kind of think back and you're like, oh, I bet if I had used that card in that situation, that would have been much more helpful. And you kind of catalog that and you put that in your brain. And so then the next time you get ready to play, then you can say, all right, now I'm going to use that knowledge, and I'm going to formulate a different game plan, and I'm going to make sure I take advantage of that synergy that I thought of. And as you play the game more and more, and as you play the different factions, you start to see how each one, shines in its own way, and you start adapting a style of play for each one. And that's what I really kind of enjoyed about the game. Replay value in games, I mean, you can get that in a lot of different ways. And one of the best ways, in my opinion, for replay value to come about is the amount of mental engagement the game asks of me. Because I'm striving to be better at that game, and I'm taking the knowledge that I've had in games prior, and I'm using it in the present game, and I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly bettering, and so and it's not that, I mean, that isn't like a rare thing, but I mean, there's lots of times when like replayability is just like, hey, this game's got 1,000 cards, you can play it over and over again. It's like, yeah, technically I guess that is a lot of replay value, but I mean, this game isn't that. It's because it's challenging you with each play to take what you've learned and be better, and have like a more I wouldn't say satisfactory game experience, but achieve a greater game experience. Just through the how much better you've done on the next session, if you will. Other than that, I mean, the other stuff about the game is really just good. I mean, I think the artwork is awesome. I think the theme is awesome. The mechanics are very sound and in their own way very innovative and very interesting. And I thought the whole aspect of getting the card out and then being able to get the card played and things like that, I thought that would feel a little clunky at first, but it really didn't. I don't use the word elegant or anything like that. I don't like that word to describe board games, but I found the game to, after that first few minutes of learning, it definitely, the gears start moving and the gears start rolling, and the game just is very, very simple and straightforward to learn and play. But as they always say, quick to learn but hard to master, if you will. So, would you like it? I don't know. I mean, do you like two-player games that are, pretty adversarial? Do you like games that have, different factions and radically different factions? Honestly, do you enjoy games with, that have a not a steep learning curve, but definitely a learning curve that you have to tackle, to really get out of the game? Are you willing to sit down and play this game several times? I mean, and because this isn't a game you're going to play 2 or 3 times and then put it away and just, I'll take it on another 6 months. No, this game kind of demands your game time, if you will. I mean, it rewards you for that investment. So, I mean, if you can say yes to those things, and like I said, you can dig the theme and everything like that, I definitely think this is a game you want to check out. Especially if you are a person that plays a lot of two-player games, and you have that one person that you play your two-player games with, because then the game is going to be able to expand and grow for both of you over repeated plays. And I think that I think it'll be a mainstay for your table for your game time when you sit down and play. So there you go. That was Theseus, the Dark Orbit. If you have any questions or concerns, by all means, please post those, and I'll try to answer those to the best of my ability. I'm sure that the designer or the publisher, Ignacy, Mr. Robinson Crusoe designer guy, will probably be more than happy to pop in and answer as well if I can't give you the answer that you're looking for. So thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. And as always, don't forget to have an awesome day. Alright, bye-bye now.